So today let's talk about Garris. With every nerf he only grows stronger. This character started off fantastic, top 3 and nobody would argue that. And while NetherRealm has nerfed him several times, I would argue he's just stronger in a different way now. He's still not bad whatsoever. He may not be top 3 at tournaments anymore, but online he is definitely still a threat. And there's always that one person in the comments section who says Garris is trash. I see you down there right now, I know you're typing. But before you post that comment, I'll have you know that Garris just won a pro tournament recently, so keep that in mind before you type that comment. At the end of the day, Garris was godlike and he's still very scary to this day. So without any further ado, let's talk about how to beat him after a quick word from today's sponsor.
Cease before you doom us all. So are you just gonna keep doing this like every week or? No, it can't be. It's
awesome anime apparel at KaioKinClothing.com with 5% off any purchase by using code DOG. These guys deliver worldwide and offer an incredible selection of clothing to satisfy your otaku needs. Me personally, I love My Hero Academia and Dragon Ball Z, and all the designs are made in-house and there's tons of reviews as well. So make sure to satiate your love for anime and save money while doing it with Kaioken Clothing. Alright, now let's learn how to defeat Garris. To start things off, we always talk about the universal abilities. So first up we have Without End. This is the overhead low that used to be a 50-50, but thankfully not so much anymore. So this sand trap starts up in 17 frames. This third hit overhead starts up in 21, so you can either fuzzy guard this thing or you can actually react to it visually. It was slowed down quite a bit, so now it's a lot easier to see coming. So whether you want to fuzzy guard or react to it, just keep in mind that the low comes first, so crouch block and then stand block just in time for that overhead. Now unfortunately the overhead is still safe on block and you can't even flawless block it either, so even though you guessed correctly, you can't punish Garris in this situation. The only option you can punish is the low, because that thing is very punishable. However, if you're fighting a Garris player who just likes to throw this string out in the neutral, not even jailing with a down 1, he's just doing it, it is possible to avoid the first hit and then flawless block the second hit while crouching and then do an up 2 reversal for a full combo. This will avoid the 50-50 entirely and also give you a nice combo for your troubles. Now the issue is the timing is a bit difficult, especially online, but offline at a tournament this can be a pretty solid strategy. And then next up we have Eternal Hate. Now first up, this thing is really punishable on block. It is -14, but even when I sometimes play Garris, I find a lot of players aren't punishing it. For the love of God, punish this thing. It's -14. Now the reality is the Garris player should never do this move in the neutral. Instead, it's mostly for whiff punishing, a wake up, and all that other good stuff. But if he does ever do it randomly or just makes a bad judgment and you block this thing, please punish him. It's super unsafe. And next up we have Time Immemorial. So not much to say about this string, just keep in mind it does have a random sneaky low. Garris doesn't have too many lows to worry about outside of his special move, but keep in mind that this thing is minus, so respond with your fastest mid and you should be fine. However, at the same time, Garris does have a 6 frame down 1, so if he's constantly doing that after you block this string, then you may have to do a down 1 yourself, and even then, unless yours is 7 or 6 frames, he could still trade with you. And next up we have Timeless. Once again, please punish this thing. It is -9, but do be on the lookout because some Garris players might do this. They may try and cancel it. I do it myself from time to time. Whenever I play Garris for a video, I make a bad read and then I use that quicksand to save myself. So yes, this string is -9 and fully punishable, but just be warned, some desperate Garris players may try to cancel into something to save themselves. And then we have Matter of Time. So there is a lot to talk about with this string. For starters, it's -6 now, and this means it's now much easier to take your turn back with a fast mid. Even if your character only has an 11 or a 12 frame mid, they should win every time. And then on top of that, the Garris player can no longer be cheeky and just mash out Fatal Blow after you block this string. That doesn't work anymore either. So the next time you find yourself blocking this string, just keep in mind you can respond with your fastest mid. Just once again, look out for a Garris player that might do this. And this string also has a lot of weaknesses too, so for starters, it can be flawless blocked on that last hit. Now unfortunately it's still only -6, so if you want to punish him you have to spend meter with an up 2 reversal, but keep in mind you can still flawless block it and punish him. And then last but certainly not least, some characters can actually avoid this second hit altogether even though it is a mid. They can just block the first hit and then mash down 3 and interrupt him every single time. So for example, characters like Frost and Katana can do this, so if you're playing a character that lays their body completely flat when they do a down 3, go into training mode and see if it makes this move miss, because chances are it may. Okay, so that was quite a mouthful. Next up, let's talk about Dangerous Chronology. So this thing is mainly a counter hit and whiff punish setup. Otherwise, it's just a low and it's not that big of a deal. But this thing on Crushing Blow, my god, does it hurt. Just look at this. Oh my god, so much pain, so much damage, and that's why you want to be very careful whenever you go for a wake up against Garris. In fact, I just don't recommend going for one most of the time, because not only does that Crushing Blow hurt a ton, but he also has Eternal Hate, which is great for whiff punishing you on wake up. He'll do something like a forward throw, and you'll think he's going in for another throw and looping it, but he'll just back up and then punish you with this and get a full combo started. Now, thankfully, this string is -6, so if you block it, it's definitely your turn, and Garris is left very close, so just go for a very fast mid. The main issue here is do not do too many wake-ups, because if he whiff punishes you with this thing, it's a lot of damage. Oh, and one last thing, that second hit starts up from very far away, so yeah, he can just low sweep you from all the way over here, so don't forget he has that option. And then last, for all of these attack strings, we have Ripple in Time. There's not too much to say about this string except it's safe at -5, so it's a very good string. It advances pretty far, and it's a mid, so you have to block this thing. So just keep in mind you can't punish it. I just wanted to bring it up. A lot of Garris players don't go for this string enough. It's really good, covers a long distance, and is also safe on block. Alright, and next up, of course, we gotta talk about the Quicksand. I think this move is what made so many players hate Garris immediately. Just right when the game came out, everyone hated this move, and it's easy to understand why. It starts up quick, and he can aim this thing too. So if you're anywhere on the ground, he can catch you with this move, and that's why characters that have an air projectile do a bit better against Garris, because they can just say no to this move completely. And with all of that said, keep in mind that this move is not as powerful as you might think, especially if you're playing certain characters, because this move on block is -19. So as long as you're looking out for it, you can punish him from really far away depending on your character. So once again, Sub-Zero or Jade, and even Johnny Cage, any character with a special move that travels very far very quickly can be a great way to punish this move. And in fact, certain characters can even punish him from full screen, like Cetrion. Any character with an 18 frame move or faster that can reach from full screen will punish this every single time. So as you can see, Quicksand is not the nightmare that everybody thinks it is, but I do have one word of warning. This move breaks armor now, so just keep that in mind. And the scariest thing about that is Garris has certain setups, like this, where the timing is the exact same. So if you break away there, he catches you. If you don't break away, he still gets 27%, sometimes more depending on how he starts the combo. So in other words, when you're fighting Garris and he goes for this setup, do not use breakaway. Do not. In fact, I would argue just don't go for breakaway most of the time when you're fighting Garris, because this move does so much damage. We're talking an easy 50%, so it's just not worth it. And that's finally it for all the universal stuff. So now let's talk about the individual variations. First up, let's talk about Infinite Warden, because that's still the most popular one to this day. So to start things off, we have Bed of Spikes. This move is a go-to combo extender. Very awesome, very easy to use, and it's also great for ending combos as well, because the damage and also Garris is very close, and he's a +19, so he can just go for a forward throw, all that dirty stuff. And of course his forward throw just loops into more forward throws, so Bed of Spikes is a good move, but thankfully it's not a mix-up. You only have to worry about it if you've been hit. And then if the Garris messes up and just dials this thing in, keep in mind it's -17, so that's a full combo punish on block if he goes for this thing. And then we have Gauntlet of the Ages, so this move is not as scary as it used to be, because before this string, forward 2-1-2, was much better on block, so when he canceled into this thing, he could just cancel out of it and you pretty much couldn't punish him for it, because if you tried, he would just do this, and he would smack you. But as you're about to see, that's no longer the case. Let me go ahead and take control of Devora, and I'm going to tell Garris to do this string and just watch what happens. As soon as possible, I'm going to have him do it. No, that's no longer possible because he's at -6 now. So Garris can no longer cancel into this thing after that string, that's the issue. And certain characters like Devora actually get a crushing blow here, so the gap is big enough for her to get some good damage on him. And in fact, maybe I can also do my teleport, let's see. Oh yeah, it's a pretty darn big gap. That's 11 frames of startup, so there is a gap there to be sure. So this move is nowhere near the threat that it used to be, but even so, don't ever let Garris just stand back and charge it. Because when he has this thing charged, he can do some really good damage because it combos fairly easily and it leads to a crushing blow. So don't ever just let him stand there and charge it, but just know the frame traps that used to be there with it are pretty much gone. And next up, let's talk about New Era. So to begin, we have Sand Trap. It seems the same as the other Quicksand move. It is not. This thing will actually crushing blow if you're stand blocking. So this means you never want to be blocking high against Garris even when he's right in your face, because if you do, he can just go for this and he'll get a crushing blow. Now thankfully this crushing blow isn't nearly as damaging as the other quicksand move, and that includes when it breaks armor. And then we have Sand Pillar. So this move can be annoying because normally you could actually jump in the air to avoid his sand trap, but now if he predicts that, he can just go for this. It hits mid and is very tall. And unfortunately this can catch some characters even when they do an air projectile, especially if their character dangles their feet while jumping. However, thankfully as long as you're walking forward and blocking low all the time, this will cover both situations. You'll block the sand trap and you'll also block the sand pillar as well. However, once Garris has you cornered, things can get a bit scarier because he has the sand pillar, and this thing will detonate and hit mid to extend combos. However, thankfully, unlike a lot of moves that have a detonation period, this thing visually tells you when it's gonna go off. You can just watch it count down. And on top of that, Garris doesn't have any overheads outside of this one string, and he can't even get that thing out unless he goes for it right away. And even if he does, he gets a very limited follow-up. So whenever you're fighting Garris and he just summons this thing, keep in mind he only has lows to threaten you with. The overhead does not have enough time in most situations and also won't lead to very much. And even if Garris goes for a throw, that doesn't lead to very much either. It knocks you both away. So don't get me wrong, there definitely are some scary setups with this thing, but typically as long as you crouch block, you should be fine in most situations. And then we have the Titan Tackle. So I love this move. It's such a satisfying command grab even to watch, and the damage isn't too bad. It's 120, which isn't bad for no meter required. And then if he carries you a certain distance to the wall, he actually gets the crushing blow. And did I do it? I think I did it. Look at that, 30%. Oh my goodness. Now thankfully, you should almost never see that crushing blow because it is highly situational. Because as you just saw, Garris has to have you at a very specific point on the screen when he goes for this move, but that is actually a giveaway for you that he might be going for it. So get ready to either press a button or just jump away. And real quick, it's also important to mention this command grab does more damage in the corner in general. So now it does 150, so slightly more than a regular throw. Man, why can't every command grab be like this? I think every command grab should do a bit more damage than a regular throw. And Garris's does, but once again, only in the corner. So keep in mind that in the corner, his command grab is more of a threat. Now, thankfully, Garris doesn't have too many tick throw setups. He has the regular standing one that can cancel into it. And he also has the crouching one that can also cancel into it. And then perhaps scariest of all, he has the forward 2. So he can do forward 2, back forward 2, and catch you with this thing. And that to me is the scariest setup because if you press any buttons to try and interrupt the tackle, he can just finish the string and then he'll get a crushing blow. And that's why I think that jumping is pretty much always your best option. I think just jump straight up or maybe jump backwards even because Garris moves so far forward. So in theory, you can avoid the tick throw and then land right in front of him for a punish. And finally, we have Eternal, his newest variation. So for starters, reverse time. This move is pretty much a grounded combo breaker. It costs Garris 2 bars, but it undoes a ton of damage and he can do it without being in the air. However, even if Garris does undo the damage, keep in mind a recent update has made it to where you can punish him on recovery, and if you have a crushing blow for that criteria, then you will get that crushing blow. And then last and certainly not least, we have Sand Simulacrum. I think that might be how you say it. This move does not seem that scary, but trust me, it definitely is. So by default, it's just a way for him to teleport. So it doesn't seem that strong, though he does recover fairly quickly. So if you aren't expecting it, he can teleport right behind you or in front of you and then go for some shenanigans. However, that is not even close to why this move is scary. So if he detonates this thing, it is plus 12. Which means you have to deal with everything. So here's a very simple example. So I'm just gonna punch you into it, then I'm gonna throw you. I'm at plus 12. What are you gonna do? I mean, you could try and press some buttons because maybe he mistimes the command grab and you interrupt it, but if you go for that, then he can just do this and get a counter hit crushing blow, or he can just do this into his tackle because once again, that's a tick throw setup. So that would look like this. Oh, ain't that some tricky, dirty stuff? That's very, very sneaky, isn't it? And it's not any less scary on hit, honestly, because it launches you. And Garris can usually still move in time to get you, so like right here, he still has time to get in. Look at that. I was actually too early. So that shows you how good this move actually is when it launches you. Whoop, boink. So yeah, Garris can still convert off this thing, don't you worry. Whether it's on hit or on block, this thing is deadly. The only downside for Garris is that he has to set it up, which usually involves a knockdown or just having a lot of space in the neutral. And unfortunately, there's not too much advice I can give you outside of learning how the Garris player likes to use this thing. Does he always use it during a combo, or does he prefer using it on block? All that different stuff, because if he expects you to block it, and then you just let yourself get hit and you're launched, he may already be going for the forward 2. or the command grab and now he messed up completely because you threw off the reaction. Little things like that can help you out a ton, or maybe he just always goes for the same setup over and over again, and once you recognize that, you're like, okay, I'll just block the forward 2 and then I'll jump, or I'll just block the explosion and then I'll jump. The key in this matchup is to understand how the Garris player likes to use these explosions. So once you have that figured out, he shouldn't be as scary, but keep in mind a good opponent can always adapt to how you adapt. And that's about it for my tips on how to defeat Garris, everybody, so thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then please leave a like down below, it really helps my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell, that way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.